And we're talking Melbourne Documentary Film Festival, which is now available online. And there are so many films that are worth seeing. And one of them is a film called Lost Contact. And I have Jaina Kalifa and Amelia Paxman, who are responsible for Lost Contact, talking with me right now. Welcome to Movie Metropolis.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
very
Peter.
much for having us.
This is such an interesting story about an autistic man. Tell me about the background to the film and how it came about that you're able to make it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I met Eldo a few years ago, just kind of in passing while researching another documentary, and it wasn't until it was probably 5 years later that me and Jaina started developing this film together, and we were thinking, who's somebody who's got an interesting story that we would like to tell, and Aldo's name came up, so we decided to meet him over Zoom, much like this, because I think we were still in lockdown at the time, and we just felt such a sense of connection to him and sort of intrigue by his story that we wanted to really pursue it further.
What were some of the challenges you faced in actually filming him? Because he's quite an intriguing character.
Yeah, he was good to work with. He's very, I think it comes across in the film. He's a kind of a warm and charismatic person, and he was up for it. He was up for making the film and wanted to share his story. We kind of set out from the beginning. We wanted to do something stylized with the documentary. So we wanted to challenge ourselves creatively, to give the story a treatment that reflected Aldo's experiences, but also sort of pushed us in a new creative direction. So that process of working out how we creatively treat his story while being authentic to his experiences, and having that make sense for the audience, they were probably the biggest challenges we faced. But I mean, that said, that's also one of the things I enjoyed the most about the process. There was quite a lot of time in pre-production. As far as documentaries go, there was a lot of Amelia and myself sort of, co-writing related to how we creatively treat the story. So that process of working out, how are we going to write together as a co-writing process, and what kind of creative ideas can we use to tell Aldo's story, and out of that process we came up with the cardboard world and the marionette of Eldo. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of going a little bit off tangent from your question, but that kind of relates to the paranoia that Eldo experiences in his life, and the idea of a master of puppets behind the scenes controlling things. So yeah, the creative ideas that we came up with were a reflection of his experiences. So the process of filming as well, I think it was a different thing for Eldo. He has been involved in he's made a few shorts and stuff, but bringing him along for the ride, because we were very much communicating with him and collaborating with him around how we tell his story, but he also didn't totally understand some of the things we were doing. So, and we didn't want him to understand it all, because we didn't want him to think too much about it and, get caught up in the detail of it. So yeah, it was a bit of a juggling act just to give him enough information for him to feel comfortable, but not so much that he overthought what he was doing, and that sort of stifled the process or his involvement in the project.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that as well. I think just in that filming process, because Aldo's, like some of our kind of stylized scenes, the filming process can be very disjointed, like just different takes and different scenes. So I think that sort of added the sense of like, oh, what does this scene represent? Because they're not filmed in order. It's not necessarily a linear thing. So I think keeping Eldo in the loop and communicating how that kind of all fit together was a little bit challenging at times.
Absolutely, I can understand that, and I suppose in terms of ethics and so on, there's always a fine line between revelation and exploitation, and I suppose you had to tread very carefully to make sure that he doesn't come across too problematically, I suppose, to put it one way.
Yeah, and that's very true, and that's something we thought very deeply about, because we, there's the understanding of making, the film being a creative work between myself and Jaina, but we still wanted Eldo to feel like he was part of it, that he had a voice, that he had a say. If there was anything that was sort of uncomfortable or something that he didn't feel good about, and we wanted to show him in a light that's resonated with people, that portrayed him, the way he is, which is really just fascinating and funny and interesting. So definitely we kept that in mind, and we kept the lines of communication open. But it definitely is a fine line, and it's very important to kind of interrogate yourself as a filmmaker when you engage with people who are juggling all kinds of things in their own lives. And you don't want, well, the other thing we didn't want the film to be like a source of stress in his life, and I think it is hard because the filmmaking process for him, it was new. It can just be stressful in the nature of things, but I think we worked really hard to try and just make sure, that it wasn't something that he had too much anxiety about, or we did our best.
Yeah, no, you did it well. So tell me, how do both of you work together? Who does what? How do you work things through as a team effort, I suppose?
Well, it's the first time we've worked together, so I guess we were working that out as we went along. Some people would be horrified at the prospect of co-directing something, but it's been an easy process for us. I think in a lot of ways I don't have juicy stories to share about major arguments, but it was very collaborative. Like, we really shared the roles as we went, and as I was saying before, we co-wrote. So we'd kind of purposefully set out, I guess, rather than treating it as a block and going, oh well, you're going to look after this and I'll look after this. It was kind of like we would go A, B with the scenes. You do that scene and I'll do the next scene. You do that scene and I'll do the next scene. And then, cross-comparing. So there was a lot of kind of cross-pollination, and so that was in the writing. And then, we both worked on the shoot, and across the edit. We worked with an editor. So it was collaborative.
Mm. Yeah, and I think the film is better for it because there was always, more, just I think it strengthened the ideas, because we were able to challenge each other's ideas and go, oh, okay, well, that's good. Or what if we, added on this to that? Or what if we combined these two strong ideas that we had to kind of get the best out of both? So, I absolutely think, the film is better for it.
And tell me about the creative aspects, because as you mentioned, the puppetry, the space sort of aspects to the film, and the sort of the oddities that are inherent in his character and what you portray. Were there any issues about shooting some of that? And were there any budgetary issues, I suppose, as well?
I mean, there's always budgetary issues, right? Like we were just,
What budget?
yeah. I mean, we were, everything pretty much, everything came out of our own pockets, and was, most of the crew was just working on the passion project. So yeah, it was, that was definitely a labor of love from a lot of people, which we, really, really appreciated. And yeah, I mean, the puppetry was a huge effort. The puppet makers were called Squeaking Tribe. They were, they made, the puppet based on a photo of Eldo. And we had a very talented puppet artist come and perform. And the enormous, it doesn't look enormous in the film, but it's enormous when you see it laid out, the cardboard replica of Aldo's house, which was a 10:1 scale. So I mean, that was challenging to film. We used a probe lens. A very talented cinematographer, Nick Patton. We had to hire it specially, it was great because I think Nick was really excited to use it. I don't think he'd used it before, but he knew, quite a lot about how it worked and the application of it. And one of the challenges was we had to use a lot of light because of the lens, and it's like this long, this very strange looking piece of equipment. But yeah, it was hard, and it was hard because everything was made of cardboard, so things were, quite sort of fragile, and you couldn't just shake things around too much. So it was certainly something we had to take real caution with, but it turned out so well. And I think that's one of the things we're most proud of, is just we wanted to represent Aldo's life in a kind of slightly whimsical way, but in a way that just still connected with people. Yeah.
How interesting. So tell me about Eldo in terms of how he lives his life, and also part two of that is, how did he respond to the film?
Yeah, he's a very he's very active in his life. He does a lot of things. When we were trying to schedule the filming, it's like, Tuesday night, so I go to dance class, and then I do this, and then I do that. So he's very curious about the world, and he's a sort of, I guess the film reflects that, but he's on a quest to make sense of life, and he does that in lots of different ways. So he participates in a lot of different activities. We were, as I mentioned earlier, very collaborative in how we worked with him in deciding how we tell his story. So for me, I feel like that's an important part of my own process. By being collaborative, we found out things, or there were ideas that we might not have thought of ourselves. And so we also, so we showed him the final cut of the film just to make sure that he was happy with it. Actually, no, we showed it to him before we were at final cut. We were basically done, but we just wanted to make sure that he was comfortable with the contents of the film. And he really loved it. But he also had a couple of, little bits of feedback which we were able to take on. And so we made some small tweaks based on what he said. And I think it's been a good process for him to be involved with the film. He's kind of been, posting about it on his own Facebook, and a lot of, it's been created some momentum for him, connecting with other people around his story, and he seems really happy with the process, and we've been, we've kind of kept in touch with him since, just to check in and see how he's going. And he's still Eldo, and he still has his challenges, and he's still doing lots of different stuff, but I think the filmmaking process has been good.
How interesting. And I can see how this film could be very useful in communities where there are people with autism or with challenging behaviours or challenging issues. I suppose apart from the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival, will the film be screened elsewhere?
Yeah, we're on the festival, circuit right now. We're still applying for various festivals, so it's still kind of early on. So we're really hoping. We haven't had a international screening yet, so we're really excited to hopefully, secure that in the next few months. We're hoping to get one of those emails that says selected. Got plenty of knockbacks, but we're really confident that it'll find its audience. It'll find the people that it's meant to connect to. And yeah, I think it's got a long tail yet still. And we were really lucky to be successful at St Kilda. We got the best documentary prize, which was just so awesome. So yeah, we're really excited for the future and what's next for the film in terms of the festival circuit.
It's been a bit hard with COVID at the moment.
Yeah.
Same as Melbourne, Melbourne Documentary Film Festival has been pushed back a couple of times, and same things happened to some other festivals that we've gotten into but haven't been able to announce because they haven't put their program out yet. So it's a challenging time for film festivals, and I mean, Melbourne Documentary Film Festival have done an amazing job of persevering and rescheduling, and the amount of work that goes into that sort of thing. So hats off to the organisers.
Absolutely, I fully agree. And just what I was alluding to before, I can see that your film will have some currency in educational circles, in schools, perhaps in other settings where dealing with, slightly tricky issues, such as in lost contact, could be screened and discussed with audiences and so on. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we'd love that. I think I could see that probably after after we've done our festival circuit, I think absolutely. And I think, that's something that Eldo is keen for, using it as a tool to sort of make people feel more confident and more comfortable in their own lives. When they feel like an outsider, that they're not alone, and that there's a sort of a joy in finding their communities as well. So yeah, I think there's absolutely potential for it to have a bit of education trail. So yeah.
Very good. So I'm quite intrigued. Are you both working on other projects?
Yeah, kind of ticking away. It's, I guess you make a film and you go, oh, I made it. But then there's all this, like getting the film out in the world is another, another big part of the process. So, and a lot of work as well. So we've been working on that. And also ticking away on, I'm tinkering with some ideas. I'd like to do a feature doc next, I think. Nothing that's ready to talk about yet. But yeah, I've made a bunch of shorts. So I'm looking forward to doing something longer. The longest I've done is 25 minutes, which is Happy Android, which screened at Melbourne Documentary Film Festival and other festivals in 2019. So yeah, that's the longest I've done. So I would like to do something longer, but to maintain an audience for a feature duration really needs to be meaty. So, and I'm very picky about projects. I circle around ideas for a long time before I commit to something. So at the moment, I'm circling.
Yeah.
Closing in for the kill. Okay, and what about you, Amelia?
Yeah, I'm a little bit the same. Like, we're busy working, the sort of distribution journey of Lost Contact, but I've certainly got a few ideas on the go, and I think it's important to, develop ideas really thoroughly, and I'm always kind of keeping an eye out for interesting stories. I feel like, it is a challenging time with COVID and the threat of lockdowns and the limits of kind of travel. But yeah, there's always, there's plenty of stories out there. So I directed a film also, a bit more about mental health issues in 2014 for the ABC called Crack Up. That was kind of my last major directing project. So I kind of, I'm kind of slow moving, but that's okay.
That's fine. It's the process is never easy, but hope you both find your next project. I must ask you to conclude. It's a two-parter again. Were there any influences in terms of films or filmmakers on Lost Contact? And have you any favourite or recent films or filmmakers that you want to recommend?
Influences. I guess I did a Master of Screen Production at Griffith Film School, and one of the things I did there, we had a masterclass with Emil Corton-Wilson, and I was intrigued with his process of, I guess, using the subject of the documentary as an actor in the film, and it's something I found I was inspired by that, and so in Happy Android, my last film, I experimented with that, and also experimented with it in this film. So he's a bit of an influence. In terms of good docos, I don't know. There's a lot of good stuff around. I don't have any super recent recommendations. If people haven't seen Grizzly Man by Werner Herzog, then do yourself a favor, check it out. Searching for Sugar Man as well is a film that I really loved. They're the sort of films that you're watching and you go, is this real? It's just sort of blows your mind. So I love those sorts of documentaries.
Okay, great, good recommendations. What about you, Amelia?
I feel like I have had a bit of a break from documentaries in the last 18 months. Sometimes the best documentaries are just the most harrowing, awful subjects. But I think a film that really that I've watched in the last few years that I think about a lot and that I recommend to people is Sherpa by Jennifer Peedham, about the avalanche on Mount Everest and just the sort of consequences for the people who actually lived and worked in the area, that the Sherpa people. So that really I'll never forget that documentary. And I saw her speak at AIDC a few years ago, and she just had such a kind of like a sort of a quiet, strong presence that I just thought, that's the kind of filmmaker I want to be. Self-assured, but kind of reflective and observant, and she really, really inspired me.
Okay, I think she has a new doco out very shortly to be seen called River, I think it's called, something like that. Yeah. Anyway. Look, it's been great talking to you both. Lost Contact is now screening online as part of the Melbourne Documentary Film Festival. And Jaina and Amelia, thank you so much for talking with me.
No worries.
Thank you, Peter.
All the best. See you later.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.